Okay, good morning, everybody. So, as promised, I wrote that petition. Of which I'm actually going to put that in the comments of my pinned post. Okay. And so, what is that petition? Oh, here we go. So I'm using what people did to me a couple years ago. Like, get Jillian off of Facebook, get her off, go and put her in jail because she's recommending salt, blah, 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 right? And, okay, I get it. Everyone needs an outlet. So let me read my petition that I put out there. And this is for the world. And yeah, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I have been for the last fucking 7 years. But what did I say? I said, develop refeeding clinics as a choice for inpatient, outpatient. Why this petition matters. The United States needs refeeding clinics as a choice in lieu of all treatments, operations, and oncology. Starving patients over time with diets and antibiotics and traumatizing them with surgeries ends up killing them at the end. Killing humans with FDA-approved protocols because the medical system cannot handle the suffering is inhumane and borderline crimes against life. In addition to the above-mentioned statement, we also want to stop the system from sending people to hospice, causing them to do all the Hail Marys and then blame the last-ditch effort as the cause of their death. Your patients in hospice were starved out and treated to death in your industry, and your system needs to redeem itself. Furthermore, we need a refeeding clinic which will qualify a person for the type of care to finally get off the track to the morgue. The intention is to overcome all food allergies, such as milk, sugar, salt, shellfish, and nightshades, but also overcome all environmental allergies with no medication and herbs. This is not just advocating using the allergy department in a hospital, okay? The intention is not to just treat symptoms, but find ways to teach a patient how to understand their alimentary canal from the top to the bottom without using aggressive concoctions and or starvation. In other words, help them condition themselves to open up their immune system so they can release the offending allergens without becoming addicted to drugs and aggressive drinks. The desired outcome is the ability to eat all food and walk into all types of environments without using anything except for their own immune system. Mothers and fathers who end up dead from natural causes with starving, with not enough energy to fuel their immune system. And that includes food and salt, electrolytes, and sugar. We want doctors to stop recommending oncology, surgeries, antibiotics, and machines when the patient is faced with terminal illness, because that's how they characterize these illnesses, because they don't want to do anything else but treat you. If they can't treat you, then you're dead, right? Okay, so we want doctors to stop recommending oncology, surgeries, antibiotics, and machines when the patient is faced with a terminal illness or diagnosis, further traumatizing them. Children and parents who are suffering from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, and food environmental allergies was initially treated in the health and wellness industry, pharmacy, herbal market at some point in their lives. All of those treatments developed the cumulative effect when the patient's immune system progressively closed up due to the fear of energetic release. On top of the refeeding clinics and alternative choices for disease, the medical industry and the holistic industry must stop advocating people should die someday to sell them a protocol to prolong their life when they know very well they cannot guarantee that, especially when the nursing homes are full of starving people who lack collagen and fat or have an abundance of skin and fat. We understand while some people are too far gone and might not have a chance to turn things around, other people like children and middle-aged adults, larger in stature, because a skinny person, that's going to be difficult, not impossible, but a really skinny person who's decrepit, like an elderly person with a big old hump on their back when they're like, bent over, that's a lot to come back from. But people who are like middle-aged, like my age, or maybe a few years older, and they're larger in stature, they don't need to get all that fucking trauma in their body. And so while we understand, while some people are too far gone and might not have a chance to turn things around, other people like children and middle-aged adults, larger in stature, have a chance to change the way they look at sickness and symptoms. Right now, patients are having a tough time even wrapping their head around the food. Wrapping around that food is the answer, and effective release is the answer when your cohorts keep taking away their life force through trauma and fear. It is your duty to honor all the food supply and give all patients the opportunity to get their lives back and reverse everything the medical and the holistic system has done to the USA and the world. You signed the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, and do what is beneficial to the client and the community, as well as lead an exemplary life personally and professionally. It is now time for a change in the whole health and wellness industry as people are suffering astronomically, and it is your duty, American Medical Association, to fix the system you developed. Sincerely, we the people who respect life. Now, so, yeah. And I will read that again. There was one correction I will make, but I'll go over that later. I'm not going to do that now. So anyway, so let me just go through my timeline here because there's a lot I need to cover because I wrote a lot. And I finally have some food. I got a peanut butter sandwich. Looking good. But usually when I do these transmissions, I don't eat it all. And so when I'm done doing all my stuff and I go downstairs and I eat so much. And then I'm like, I need to lay down. So I ate so much. And so I'm trying now to eat like more in the morning. Because yeah, you don't want to get to that point. And so now I'm going to, so when you think about it, I'm going to be covering some really fucking hard shit. Because when you think about slavery and children, 18 years of slavery with children who've been programmed and conditioned in a specific way, yes, you might get skills and you might get, hard lessons to learn and you'll get, an assimilation to the society you live in. But also there's a destruct programming, a self-destruct programming built into the 18 years of your brainwashing that also has benefits, but also a self-destruct programming was built into the 18 years under your parents, in your community, and then also even in a dog. A dog could live to be 18, 20 years or 13 or 8 years. And so we are supporting slavery for at least 18 years of your life, and you hope you survive all that brainwashing, all those skills that you learned. You hope you survive everything that was thrown at you and told to you, of which then you carried into your adulthood. And so when we keep reproducing weak humans, animals who have exponential suffering, we will have exponential suffering. So when we keep reproducing weak animals and humans, we will have exponential suffering. And so that's what's kind of going on right now, is that we have tried to save everything. And as far as Darwinism in a first world, you can't leave them out in the wild and see what happens. I mean, it happens, actually. People don't get taught things, and they're so naive, like young girls, and then they're released to go to college, and they don't know anything. And so, they are weak, and they don't understand shit, and they're not worldly, and they haven't learned the hard lessons, because the parents, who knows? And so they end up in the wild, and there's predators all around them, and they don't see the predators for who they are or what they are. And so when we keep reproducing weak humans and weak animals, the suffering because you're learning the hard lessons out there when you weren't fully prepared at home, the suffering of the damage of the events, the suffering is exponential. And of course, the animals that are weak, because you can't. When you have a small kitten that's weak and it's been domesticated, then you have to inflict pain and suffering on that animal because they're going through an evolution. You don't know how to respond to it. So what do? You give it to a system that eventually destroys them. And you try to eke out whatever you can out of that cat or that dog. And so, I'm going to offend a lot of even my Jilly Juice crowd that have animals. Because, we were covering just, okay, how do we deal with an animal and how do we get over all the different symptoms that they go through. And so, we know people have dogs, people have cats, but it's even more than just trying to figure out how to not treat symptoms and use food and everything. That's not going to happen with everyone. So when you get an animal that you really have no idea, I'm sure some people with dogs, and they figure out if their dog has a relatively okay genetic line, they might be able to overcome all the different evolutionary symptoms, but that's not guaranteed. You don't know. And so we're going to watch people who have dogs in the J world, see how they deal with their animal going through evolution, if they even can survive it, when they might be faced with the hard choice of having to put it down because they can't handle the suffering. Nobody in their house can handle the suffering. And so, And so then when you realize that's what's going on, there's no guarantee you're going to get an animal that's going to have a anomalous free genetic line, then you realize, okay, maybe it's maybe it's better not to be cannibalizing these animals for your own personal gain. What do you mean cannibalizing? Sucking the energy out of them, because you have no intention of keeping them alive indefinitely. You weren't taught that. You were taught to then go and line the coffers of their veterinary systems. And so then, yeah, when you interfere with Mother Nature, exponential suffering. And when you're saving an animal that's a runt out there or is out there in the wild, like even over, in a neighborhood, and you bring it home, okay? Sometimes some things are just left to go, but see how it is? I mean, people interfere with Mother Nature. I mean, I'll tell you, the saviors will cause all the suffering. And that's what goes on with these bleeding heart liberals and bleeding heart right-wing people. They become these saviors, and then they have to become a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then when you get so desensitized to death and suffering, then it's just the constant vampirism of animals and children and friends and family. And then that's why we have then the medical system the way it is that they can't wait to get their hands on people who are suffering and just pull out all the resources before they pass away. And that's a fucked up system to be in and to support. And so animals and children in all types of captivity is slavery, and exponential suffering is in the future. Exponential. Okay, so when you're in a captivity, you're being forced to get operations. You're being forced to get antibiotics. When you're in captivity, you're forced to do so many different things. It's one thing to teach a person how to survive, okay? But see, we have these parents who have been taught to cause harm to their kid through the medical, holistic, whatever, energy healing world, and we're taught to ignore indicators because they don't even have the indicators because they've been cured. And so, yeah, we have taught parents to enslave their children. We have taught parents to enslave animals. We have taught people to do all these things and call it life and call it, everything that justifies what's going on right now. And so then, and I was a little pissy yesterday. And so I was like, when you finally wake up to your inhumanity, then you will share my latest videos because now you fucking get it. And thank you, Audrey, for doing that. I appreciate it. Those who do not share my videos, chicken shit. And I get it. You say you're not ready. Bullshit, chicken shit. That is why even people in the J world do not get it. That is why we're in a great reset. Monsters in our society. Sharing my latest videos is me speaking, not you. But you are willing to give people the option to my information. Open up the conversation. That's why I did that change.org petition. That doesn't mean it's going to gain any traction because people are still people are still afraid of food, afraid of symptoms. They don't think they should live indefinitely. They think they should die someday. I mean, I'm just like, it's such a foreign language to a lot of people. But again, you lay down the groundwork. You lay the traction. You lay it down. And you let it evolve. You let it gain traction. You let it have a life of its own. And it will eventually. When people get tired of suffering so much and watching their friends and family and children and animals suffering under that weight of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, medical, holistic, surgical, veterinarian world. Okay? And so sharing my latest videos is me speaking, not you, but you are willing to give people the option to my info. Open up the conversation so I know how chicken shit many of you are. You put your money where your mouth is, and I see where you spend your money on. I get it. I'm entertainment to most. Love, bleeding heart, right wing and left wing. I know. Okay, I got to say what I got to say. Let me tell you, I mean, when people get it, they can't wait to fucking share it. And I know, Audrey, you get it. I know John gets it. John has his own way of doing shit. Okay? But I can still like and respect monsters for their part of the depopulation agenda. Even though you might save yourself, but there's no guarantee. But I'll tell you, when you finally share your ideas about the world, then you wake them up to another possibility. But when you don't share another way of doing things, no matter how much flack I got the last 7 years, then you're part of the depopulation agenda. And you're not really in the J world, really. I mean, you are in name only. But the tenets of giving people the option for another choice, even though it's really different. When you tell people you don't have to die someday, and there's a way to never have to use a medical holistic system at some point. Okay? I mean, Yeah, it's a little shocking, but damn, don't your friends and family deserve that kind of option to even think about and consider? And so releasing the monsters from your body requires you to face the monster of who you are to animals, children, and humans. Okay? Holding children and animals in captivity is monster behavior. What the fuck do you mean captivity, Jillian? These are my kids. I have to train them how to do shit. Are you really preparing them for the world that we live in? Do you really intend to keep them alive? If you can't even keep yourself alive, and your mother and your grandmother and your aunts and your uncles and friends and family have died from natural causes, you have no intention of keeping them alive. So then you're holding them captive, but calling it, oh yeah, I'm mommy and daddy. You have no intention to really prepare them for the world they are in right now. It's friendly. It's the velvet coffin that you have developed in your world, and you've accepted that. And so when you think about it, holding children and animals, when you have no intention of keeping them alive, in captivity is monster behavior. Again, if you have no intention of keeping that animal alive, and you know you won't because you have no idea how, you will suffer by causing the suffering in that animal when they try to evolve, and then you give them to the butcher system, and that includes children. And so I'm like, so this is where we stand, you know? The system is watching you put your money where your mouth is, and they bank on you still cultivating the monster behavior. Because the more you're desensitized to suffering, and the more you're desensitized to death, the easier it is for you to give your kids and your parents and your friends and family away to the system to do away with them in a nice, kind way with FDA-approved protocols. So then I had to paint a picture yet again, besides the catacombs in Paris, right? Children, pets, animals in captivity are part of the collection of souls, skulls, of that owner, parent, grim world we live in. And that child and animal are forced to perform for their slave owners. Fucked up life of that animal and child, and they still pass away anyways. Of course, after all the suffering from the pills and surgeries and antibiotics, mothers collect skulls, and pet owners collect skulls, and they stack them neatly under the mantle, and parade the skulls around to their community, proud of what they have done. See, I am not the monster for pointing this out. The monsters out there are all about love and hate and collecting souls. See, you as a parent owner have no idea how to keep that animal child alive, so you expect to contribute to the destruction of that child and pet, of course, all the suffering. So yeah, when you have no idea how to keep shit alive, so you're bringing life into this world with no intention to really keep it alive, because you know what happened to your parents and grandparents, you know what you expect to do someday. So when you bring something to the world that you expect to die someday, what the fuck kind of life is that? That's slavery. When you bring an animal into your world, you know no intention of keeping around, that you're just going to use as a plaything, as a slave. That animal is a slave. That child is a slave. Anything that you bring in your home with, you have no intention of keeping it alive, and that has absolutely no way to take care of itself without you dictating its every move. That's a slave system. And so then people get drunk with power. Well, look at these groups. When you have the admins are like, oh my God, look at this troll. Oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, you can't do this. You can't do that. And I get kind of control people's behaviors. But let me tell you, some of these admins take it to the next level. Oh, I know. I got drunk with power way back when I was admin to some of the groups out there. Oh yeah. When you are in charge of people, when you have the power to take away life and give life, that is adding people to the group or taking them away or banning them for the group, right? From the group. That's like having a child or an animal that absolutely has no control over their own life. You are controlling their every fucking move. Every fucking move. And you force them into things like surgeries. You force them into antibiotics. You force them into things that are going to compromise their immune system. And even going under the knife. Oh, but they have to look a certain way because they have all these issues. And they have too many things, or they have something here. Yeah, when they have issues, when that child has issues with hyperdontia or other issues that make them look a little bit different, well, that's where the medical system needs to come in and figure out how they are able to bring in the nutrition and figure out how to release the extra stuff that's in the body that doesn't belong, so to speak. But we have assumed that we're going to die someday, so then we allow people to go and disfigure us based upon what is acceptable, based upon the lack of wanting to sit with the evolution. When you bring something into your world and it has all kinds of problems, you better intend to make sure it stays alive, if not indefinitely. But again, our society has never even thought about immortality, terrestrial, physical immortality. And so this is where we need to change. We need to have a different term. We need a different path. Obviously, it's less traveled. But then when someone points out, how many skulls are you collecting? How many children you have that you have no intention of keeping alive? How many grandchildren you want? When you know you're going to die someday, so what kind of future does that kid have? Oh, but they might have a life. You can't guarantee they're going to have a good life. If you can't keep yourself alive and the medical system can't even keep you alive, what the fuck future is that for that child and that animal? But this is so new, we don't know. That's why I'm telling you now. So mothers collect skulls and pet owners collect skulls and they stack them neatly under the mantle. Parade the skulls around their community, proud of what they've done. See, I'm not the monster for pointing it out. The monsters out there are all about love and hate and collecting souls. And so you, as the parent owner, have no idea how to keep that child animal alive. So you expect to contribute to the destruction of that child and or pet, and of course, all the suffering. And so parents, owners, you can only save yourself. While you get to watch your pet and child suffer under the destruction during evolution as you keep giving them your pets and children to the medical holistic system, and you know you cannot force life into your kid and animal. And so in this system, the only thing left to do is contribute to the destruction of your charge using all FDA-approved drugs, herbs, and surgeries. That is your future, and that's what you signed up for and contribute to. And so until Mother Nature releases demons or the weak ones, and you save yourself, until Mother Nature releases demons. Oh yeah, okay. So that is your future and what you signed up for and contribute to until Mother Nature releases the demons or the weak ones and you save yourself. And so I put a description of what captivity is. Captivity, the condition of being imprisoned or confined. He was released after 865 days in captivity. Similar, imprisonment, confinement, internment, incarceration, custody, detention. Restraint, constraint, committal, arrest, bondage, slavery, servitude, enslavement, subjugation, subjection, thraldom, thrall, duress, opposite is freedom. And so, short for Babylonian captivity, singular, proper noun, captivity noun, the captivity. And so, yeah, it's all relative. You do something wrong, then you'll get held in a smaller cell. So your home and your community for a child and for an animal is bigger than the little shelter cells, right? Or the jail. But imagine people that have small houses. I mean, that's the thing is that when you look at how this world operates, oh, it's fucked up. And when you finally get your humanity back, then you'll put yourself in the shoes of your children and put yourself in the shoes of an animal. And would you want to be taken care of by you? Would you want to live the life that you forced on your animal and forced on your child? Would you? Okay. I mean, there are ways to explain to children why we must get up and brush your teeth and wash your hair and do all the things you're supposed to do. But if they have so much rebellion, well, there's a lot of issues in their body that they have to release, and they have to become a whole person. And they have to have all the foods, and you can't be giving them diets and shit. And if they have a lot of health issues, and that actually comes first in releasing those health issues. Because once they release those demons and all those health issues, and then you put them in front of a computer or in front of a book or in front of a professor, and they're told how, or they're being taught certain things, they will be excellent. They will be smart. They will be able to take on information. When they're properly fed, when they release their demons, when they're able to sleep when they're tired, okay? That's how you get smart people, is you allow their body to evolve and release all the fucking damage, and so then they can take on the information. And so right now we have these parents and people who are so traditional that they will destroy their animals and destroy their children. So traditional and in fear of everything. In fear of food, in fear of water, in fear of change. And so these poor kids and animals are suffering. under the ignorance of their parents and their owners. And so it will take scientists and a system to raise the children correctly, because parents today have absolutely no idea how to take care of anything. They just bleed the world dry. Yeah. Look at all these little vampire babies all over the world. Oh, shit. Let me just drink something. Now you see why children are held captive by their parents. Which today, in this world, the system will help destroy captive agents, because even parents are slave to traditions. All right? And so all the captive agents out there are slave to traditions of death and suffering and starvation. See you later. Thank you for your service. That is why I feel sorry for all children and pets. They must deal with the monsters who love them to death. Did I piss you off? Good. No one in your world will ever give you this truth, because you are a cult leader surrounded by yes men, your slaves, as you keep giving them bodies to suck dry. And so that's kind of what it is. People will not even take a look at how they do shit. They won't look at another thought process. They don't want to ever change. And so people around them will never, ever say, okay, well, maybe we should do something different. Maybe. No, because not only do they rely on that person to keep feeding them, but the other person is relying on them to keep feeding them. And so, again, it is a mutually assured destruction. And then they keep feeding off each other. That's the family. That's the friends. That's the associations. That's tight-knit groups. That's mutually assured destruction. And so pro-life people with no intention of keeping anything alive, much less themselves, and have no clue how to keep themselves or their animals alive and kids alive, collect and stack skulls and show the world just how proud they are of it. And you have the gall to be anti-VA-XS, which gives you life. You fail to know how to manage a life in your body, so you use nature against your life, and also the vet, surgical, medical, holistic, energy healing world. And then when things do not survive, you blame someone, because you were too conditioned to suffer. You are not conditioned to suffer to live, and all the damage from the medical holistic caused it to become harder to evolve. And then that's when people are proud of collecting the souls, right? That is the family. That is the world. Your silence around this concept is your acceptance. Of course, it is all about love, 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 and point out the things that you are not part of, but you fail to face your own monsters. And this is the animal and human ownership. And that's why the system is trying to guide reproduction carefully. That's why, the whole thing with eugenics, well, there is something to that. Eugenics is not a bad thing. Because imagine you have somebody in your house who was a victim, or who was a child of a victim, like Freddy Krueger, where his mother was a nun who was raped by a bunch of psychos in an insane asylum. And here's Freddy Krueger. And he's in your house. He's in your neighborhood, destroying people. You really think that life is okay, that life deserves to be saved? You see all over Facebook, someone does something really wrong relative to what they think is wrong, and they all want to string people up. And so what does eugenics do? Well, it says, okay, if maybe this person's background, maybe this person's lifestyle, which could be so many different things that you don't approve of, maybe they don't need to be making kids. Because then the system has to deal with those kids they turn into serial killers one day, who turn into more than bullies. I mean, bullies is like, okay, that's kind of part of growing up nowadays, because you don't understand differences yet until the parents figure it out. But we are developing some pretty fucking aggressive serial killers out there, who look for their target, who look for the naive girl, who look for the naive boy or guy. They're looking for love on Tinder or Match.com or Yahoo Personals, and that's way a long time ago. And so people are making themselves food for the vampires, because we have developed vampires in our society, really aggressive, deadly vampires. And so the whole eugenics, there's something to it. And you can't say all life is great when you have people like Jeffrey Dahmer cannibalizing his dates, literally cannibalizing his dates. So you got to know the system is going to have to control that reproduction, and there's ways to do it. And so I'm glad the system is kind of showing you how fucked up people can be because of their background, and why they're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be advocating these people have families, because look what these families are doing and look what they're producing. And now we have to deal with this and develop more agencies and develop more surgeries and develop more things to cause more suffering, when we could have controlled that life that would be really aggressive. And there are indicators to tell you potentially 1 out of like 5 kids would be a serial killer relative to the background of that parent. Because when you have 5 kids, that's 5 chances of somebody coming out all fucked up and one person coming out great. So when you're banking on that one person, it's going to really majorly move society forward. And that one person, the other person, that one kid is a serial killer. They'll cancel each other out. But why are we developing such amazing children who don't end up surviving anyways? Because the system needed them to do stuff, right? To be like an Imhotep. But at the cost of what? So then you get adults who can release their fucking demons. They have enough experience in their background. They have enough life experience, history to look back on. And not to make the same mistakes and be an amazing contributing member of society without torturing these poor children who don't end up surviving anyways. That's what the whole J world is that we don't have to rely on these children who we think, oh yeah, they'll give a great life, but really they have been enslaved, and then they don't expect to live. They expect to pass away. Can you imagine Taylor Swift and Britney Spears? And they're told, oh, you're going to die someday, but here's a great life. And you'll make billions and billions of dollars for these huge music industry, for their parents. And they don't really have anything. They can't even control their own, because they have too many issues. I mean, you think about it, with Taylor Swift, she's making millions and millions of dollars, but how much can she really use? Sitting in a big, large house with nothing in it, and people all fawning over you, and you can't eat too much because you have to maintain your figure. You can't be weighed down during performances. And so when you're doing 40 songs in a span of 3 hours, okay, and then you have to sit and rest until you get to the next show and the next show, and it's ongoing until they bleed the life out of her. That's what slavery is. Slavery isn't just toiling in the freaking cotton fields, suffering under the heat of the sun. It's also forced to perform and then told, yeah, you're being a major influence. And look, all these millions of dollars. But what can you do with millions and millions of dollars when you think about it? She already goes all over the world. She's already eaten the best food. And so when you're already exposed to everything, you've already been to all the best beaches, all the great vacations and all the great food, then you're just forced to perform and put a smile on your face. People think that's great. I mean, I've been to some great vacations. I've been to different places. But I don't want to be anyone's fucking slave. That's for goddamn sure. That's not freedom. You don't realize that the entertainment industry is not freedom. It's not freedom at all. Having a lot of money is not freedom. Making the money progressively and living within your means and not having to worry about parasites trying to feed off you because you have so much. That's what happens when you have so much. You're a target for so many people who don't have the capacity to make so much. And then you have to protect yourself from that. And so is it worth having that many millions of dollars to be a slave to somebody else and having to protect yourself all the time? See, I want to be able to speak. And so not having all the friends and family around me who would then muzzle me because I'd be too afraid to offend them, that's like a jail. That's like having a lot of money and you have to protect yourself. But, I mean, my whole protocol and what I'm advocating around the medical holistic industry is proof that I'm not trying to harm anyone. I'm not trying to, be discriminatory or be all upset because I'm not like somebody else. I mean, part of me is wants to be like the rest of the world, but that wasn't in my cards. Part of me knows that that's okay to feel a little bit of envy that I'm not like everybody else. But then what's my bigger contribution to this world? Well, questioning everything that we've ever done as far as the medical and the holistic stuff, and now understand what the system is doing. So I understand on one hand what the system is doing and the whole depopulation agenda and the guided reproduction carefully, but on the other hand, we got to give people a chance not to fall into the dragnet of the surgery system, the medical system. And so my little tiny pond that I'm in right now is giving the people that are watching this information an opportunity to figure out what they can do for themselves. I'm not going into groups and posting my petition and posting my website. I'm not trying to go out there and sell this information to everybody. No, that's when you attract all the fucking parasites out there. No, people have been around me for a long time. They know where I came from. They know where I'm going. They will produce that change in their world if they choose to. But I'm not trying to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. No, there is a very specific strategy that I'm doing. I don't even tell some of my neighbors around here what I'm doing. There's 2 neighbors in my neighborhood that know what I'm doing. And there's a new neighbor that I've met that I didn't say anything. Because I don't know if they have the capacity to understand where I'm coming from. And when you say something like this, like immortality, to people who are just like, what? You don't want someone to be like, you don't want, so you just be careful who you say things to in your real life. But people, that know me, I guess, and met me, I'm not some crazy ass person, so they know where I'm coming from. And I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say, and not because I want to hurt them, it's because I want to give them another opportunity. Even if they think they don't have the opportunity, they deserve to know about the opportunities. And so, I'm sweating. God. Okay. All right. So anyways, you're focused on so much of the system accomplishments, but you still devalue life and the sanctity of life. So your children and pets and your significant other becomes a sacrificial lamb because you refuse to set them free or give them the info so they can make an educated choice. All right. And it's all about your death god, praising everyone and your contribution to stacking skulls. That is the depopulation agenda. Pet owners who desensitize their audience around life and parents who have no idea how to raise a kid. But scientists do. Slavery. So now you see what having a baby means in our society today and even back then. You are providing the vampires with food. Once you teach your child how to destroy itself, that's what you signed up for. Feeding the vampires. That's what having a pet means in our society. When you go and save a pet, instead of letting Darwin take care of it, you enslave the animal and cause harm to that animal because you have to. People don't give food to animals out there in the wild. They have to capture them and then enslave them. And so I get when people say put out, shelters for the cats during the winter that have all, but my husband doesn't want cats around the yard, so I can't do that. But that's what they say, is that if you want to take care of the animals in your community, put out shelters. And I don't know about putting out food, because then you'll attract all the cats in the neighborhood and no one wants to have a bunch of cats everywhere. And so if you're going to do that, then go put food out there in the middle of the field, right, for all the cats in the neighborhood, and draw the cats away from the neighborhood over there to that field. But not in your backyard, or not in the street, or not in your neighbor's yard putting food out there, because you'll attract all the pests, and then they got to deal with that. And people end up hurting the animals because they don't want all the animal all over their yard and all over, everywhere. And so, if you want to help the fucking animals, go to a field where, around a neighborhood and put food there. Like, actually, I have an empty lot next to me that I could put, I don't want cats. No, never mind. That's too close to other homes. Okay, so you find something far away and you put food there. And the animals will find it that are in the area. Okay? That's how you take care of fucking animals. Is you find a place where no one's really around and you put food there. But to go and capture an animal and bring them in your home and enslave them, and now they have no freedom. Oh, my home is so nice. How do you fucking... That's the thing. Anyways. So people don't give food to animals out there in the wild. They have to capture them and then enslave them. That's where humans fucked up, when they interfered with Mother Nature. Darwin was correct. Evolution and survival of the fittest is necessary, because the weak, traumatized children will destroy the society. Animals are not to be pets. They deserve a space to run free, have some kind of shelter without humans controlling them. And they need to have natural predators, so you're not traumatizing the world, okay, the circle of life. Because that's the thing, when a veterinarian has to go and cut into an animal, and the animal comes home and they're just like so lethargic and they're in pain, but they really can't say anything, and they have to work through that, and then you expect them to perform for you. Oh God, then now these kids are desensitized to that. Now these kids think life is basically, expendable, when they have all these pets, and all these pets run away and they come back, and oh my God. But humans watching the destruction of animals in their home makes them very predatory. It happens. It needs to happen in the wild. So please don't fool anyone by saying you're saving any animal you bought something to feed on, and then you will traumatize it later when it suits you. And so you got to see how wrong this is. You got to see how wrong slavery is. If you can't see it, I'm sorry for your animal and I'm sorry for your child, because they will be suffering and then destroyed, and then you'll have another child, another animal to suffer and destroy, collecting skulls. So please don't deny it. The proof is out there. It's on your Facebook. It's in the morgue. It's in those urns. It's in your photo album. Denying it makes you even more of a monster because you can't even see the errors of your own ways. How would you like to be captured by somebody, told when to eat, told when to piss, when to make a mistake, you get beaten, then left home alone, tied up somewhere? Soft pillows don't make up for the torture of the veterinary system, and then forced to perform, or get tortured by a child who doesn't know any better. Okay, other people who put animals around their kids and all that shit, or get tortured by a child who doesn't know any better, and the animal suffers and wants to run away. Somebody captures it and forces it back in the home again. Try being an animal for a fucking day, for one day. Put yourself in the shoes of your animal. You think your animal has a great life? Try being a fucking animal for one day and see how great life is. Now look at your children. Why they run away? Tortured by parents who don't know shit. Or the kid is so oblivious, drugged out, and then told to perform by the parents exploiting their talent. Slavery is alive and well. Stand in the shoes of these children and animals. Now you see why we're in a great reset. So when these kids have so much energy and they need to release the demons, but then they're given all this medication to stop them from releasing, then they blow up. All that energy that they have to release and then bring in food, all this medication like the ADD and ADHD medication to stop them from releasing that energy. And so they're drugged out, their body is stopping from releasing, and then what happens? They get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they become so obese because all the energy is trapped in their body, and then one day they supernova. Then they have to go and deprogram from all that. That's what parents have done to their children for fucking years. Drugging their children, forcing surgeries on them, and making them perform. And because it's exploitation. It's slavery. 18 years of slavery. 18 fucking years. In an animal between 1 and 20 something years of slavery with that human. So then what do you recommend, Jillian? Let fucking scientists raise the children, and maybe people stop advocating their kids to have kids because it's only cause suffering and also take away substance from your child. And now you just fracture that child's potential. Because now that kid is now a fraction of their parents. And so then you see what happens. People have less intelligence, less substance, less ability to survive, and then they are deadly. Oh, I need to drink some water. Just because everyone is doing it does not make it okay or right. It just makes it accepted and preferred for a specific agenda you are unaware of. If someone called me a monster, I would agree with them relative to their perception, because I'm saying, hey, you got to fucking suffer through your predisposed issues. And if you have a hard time, then bring in a doctor to help you deal with that. But the outcome is you get off the fucking doctor system. All right. If someone calls me a monster, I would agree with them relative to their perception. But then in turn, when you call someone a monster, you better be prepared for them to point out the monster in you. That's when you correct your ways. When you can face the monster within yourself. That's when the world will become a better place, because you can't run away from pain. It will only come back to haunt you and everything that keeps you distracted. I don't enslave animals. I don't enslave children. My husband has a latitude to do whatever he wants. He knows my information and he will make his own choice. I don't force my information on anybody. I put it out there through my own Facebook Live. You choose to watch me or don't watch me. But I'm not forcing anything on anybody. I'm just, again, representation and providing you information so you can make an educated choice about things that are out there. That's freedom. When you purposely develop and sustain things that you don't have the capacity for to make their own choices, then you get drunk with power. So when you purposely develop and sustain things that don't have the capacity to make their own choices, then you get drunk with power. That's why people turn into monsters, because they get drunk with power. I don't want to be that person, okay? That's why I'm not an admin to any group. That's why I'm just a member of groups. I don't want to be an admin to anything. I don't want to play that power-hungry game. If I have the power to delete you and the power to bring you in. That's like out there in the medical system, where you have the power to delete somebody and you have the power to potentially save their life if you're willing to put in the work. And so that's why people turn into monsters, because they get drunk with power. I don't want to be that person. And I can't make anyone see this. You all deserve to live, but you can't save everything. Save yourself. And you deserve to be aware. Okay? And so, Remember, everyone thought I was a monster for many years until I reversed the situation and corrected their perception with the other scientific arguments. If me calling you a monster hurt so bad, imagine what I felt like for the last 7 years being attacked by you and your friends and family who cannot face a monster within their own spirit. So you got to toughen up, people, right? It's only going to get worse during this climate change. I mean, we just had 36 people die over there in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii, because of those horrific winds and wildfires that basically decimated that whole town. And you think they were prepared for that kind of change? No. Once those winds were blowing and it's hot outside and I'm telling you, man, when you're in places like the islands or any place like a small town and you're in the Midwest or in the South, expect your shit to get decimated. I expect to lose everything all the time. Even though maybe Ohio stays on the map through all this climate change, doesn't mean that they're going to clean up Ohio through all the different storms and shit. So I just get ready to lose everything. I don't take anything for granted. At this point, I'm not doing any vacations, because imagine going to a vacation spot like Puerto Rico or anything else, and then all of a sudden you get a hurricane, you get, wildfires. Yeah, the world isn't the same anymore. You can't take what you did before for granted. And so now we have Destin, Florida, right, that's still decimated from the hurricane the last time, and those Keys, those areas between the Keys. And then we're into the next hurricane season. What's going to be decimated this time? And are you on the coast? Are you in Florida? Are you in Georgia? Are you in, all the southern coast? I mean, and of course, all the tornado alley. I mean, geez. So it's only going to get worse during this climate change. Face your monsters and you might survive. If your kids do not have the capacity to understand my info, then that is your punishment for cultivating people who cannot save themselves. You had to be the God in their life and keep them from evolution. Okay? So it's not the system's fault. It's your own fault, parents. Humanity depends upon you understanding evolution, parents. You and only you can save yourself, and maybe your kids have a chance. All right? So again, you don't want to do anything that's going to make the system raise their eyebrow the thing is with kids, raising kids and all this with their allergies and everything else, that's why I posted that petition about a refeeding clinic, because somebody has got to make that available for a parent who has kids with food allergies, but they need the milk, they need the meat, they need the cheese, they need the eggs. You don't want them growing up with 20% bone density. You want very strong bone density in your kids. Okay? And when they're allergic to milk, but that's most of their calcium and minerals, and they're allergic to salt, and they're allergic to sugar and gluten, these kids growing up, they have brittle bones. How are they going to fucking survive? And so if they're allergic to milk, then you need these clinics to help your kids get back on the milk supply. Get on the food supply, because that's what's going to fucking save them, is the food. And so right now the system is force placing evolution, and now it's up to the parents to strengthen themselves to deal with climate change and disease, and then teach their children how to become biologically tougher in a very aggressive environment. You will find all the died suddenly are people who could not adapt to climate change, and those who have been diagnosed using the system's remedies and surgeries and are progressively becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. So please, for the love of fucking mankind, respect mankind, save yourself. Oh, geez. I remember Britney Spears in the slavery system, and now she is off her rocker. Poor Taylor Swift, forced to perform for the masses who are eating her alive. You think all that money is worth it? How many lobsters can you eat? That's my version of being rich, is having a bunch of lobsters, right? And she has to eat lightly or feel weighed down during the performances. See, food is, when you have access to food, all kinds of food, and you're not allergic and you're not like so poor you can't even afford the food that you want to eat, that's rich, because you're bringing in currency, energy in your body to be able to convert so you can do whatever you want to do. And you're not overextending yourself or anybody else. But when you are making billions for a corporation and you can't even eat what you fucking want to eat and you have to maintain a certain figure, that's slavery. Food is wealth. All food, genetically modified, lab created meat, every food out there, processed food, it's wealth. It is energy conversion. It is currency. And those who are so skinny are so poor in that currency and energy conversion. That's why they might have a hard time surviving this. They can't afford to live in this society when you're so fucking skinny. You don't have anything to you. There's nothing to convert. To survive. It's all about material wealth and social capital and accolades. But the people are diminishing. They don't have enough energy to convert, and so they don't survive aggressive environments. And so when poor Taylor Swift has to force to perform and she can't even eat all the foods that she really would want to, she has to strategize her eating in order for her to perform for 3 hours, singing 40 songs. Oh my God, that system is milking the fuck out of her. And so she's a slave for the system. And parents today hunger for that slavery in their family, wanting their kids to be famous and enslaved. How do we cultivate motivation, innovation, and freedom? All right? We are finding out. Because right now, in order for us to cultivate motivation, innovation, we are enslaving people. How do you set people free and then they want to go and motivate to innovate society? You know, parents are forcing their kids into things. So that's why they do things at a young age. That's why college is at like 18. That's why going into the military is 18, because you're not fully developed, obviously. You're under the slavery of your parents. You don't have enough life experience to see stuff for what it really is. And then you hope you survive your 20s, you hope you survive your 30s, and you hope you survive your 40s. Some people right now in their 50s, and they're too far gone. Too far gone in their 50s. Because they barely survived their 20s and 30s and 40s, and all that brainwashing in their 18 years of in their parents' rule in the system, and then in their 20s and 30s, they just milked the system for what it was and themselves. And yeah, they're too far gone. And so 19 kids and counting, 19 skulls and counting. And so when you're teaching your kids how to stay alive based upon someone who's dead like grandma, you have no intention to keep your kid alive. Mother, if you intend to die someday, don't even fool anyone by saying you're saving your children. You're just giving the vampires more food. Okay? That's the thing right now, is mothers have to realize this. If they don't have any intention of keeping their kids alive because they're basing all of their lifestyle on what grandma did as far as symptoms and everything else, then you have no intention to keep your kid alive. None. And it's going to take a savvy mother who realizes that she's really overextended with how to deal with her kids' issues to use my petition and present that situation, that scenario, that change to the medical system so she can save her family. It's going to take a mother to, because let me tell you, trying to manage your children's issues when you know they have predisposed issues by yourself and then they don't survive, you could be held liable. So don't do shit on your own when you know you're really in over your head when it comes to your kids' issues and predisposed issues. All right? You seriously need to figure out how to strategize helping your kids through the system legally. Because I realized that was the strategy. You couldn't work outside the system. You had to go to the system and develop change within. But even then, you know, a patient can do that and a doctor can do that and potentially even a nurse could try to introduce change. But someone like me, who doesn't use the medical system or the holistic system, who's not licensed in any of the health and wellness stuff, I can't produce change within. I can only offer an awareness that you have other options. Because I've done things on my own and it didn't require anything that was a machine. Okay? I was relatively healthy and I was able to pull out the fucked up programming and eat all food and just sleep and rest and allow the body to release. Even if I was itching all over, I still allowed the body to release. And I ate all food. And if there's only lab created meat available in the future, I'll eat that food and it'll be fine. If it's bugs that were then melted down to the elements and then reprocessed into something else, that's no different than whatever protein they used before. It's just a different form of protein. But it's the same protein, but it's called a different name. So I have no problem eating bugs that have amino acids, fatty acid, amino acid, hormones, and minerals. I have no problem eating lab-created culture meat, even if it's from cancer, because cancer is life. Cancer is not horrible. It's just you don't know how to manage that energy. Cancer is life and bugs are life. And they're not poison. But since you have been attacking cancer with oncology, you have been attacking bugs with bug sprays. That's your perception, and you'll starve yourself if you don't understand what makes up the cancer cells. It's basically proteins. What makes up a bug? Proteins. Okay? And you need proteins. Now, I've seen some of you out there coming through, watching my stuff. Some of you have some scary profiles. Maybe you're a Christian, like an aggressive Christian, and you got some scary profiles, very intimidating looking, okay? I'm not trying to knock anyone's religion. I have my own beliefs around religion. I don't believe in religion. I don't say I'm an atheist, because even atheists believe in the religion. But I'll say this, that I don't worship dead people, and I'm not legalistic. I just say, hey, you want life, you've got to promote life and feed life and release the excess of life in your body. But I don't believe in attacking or destroying anyone. And I don't believe in force converting anyone or intimidating anyone if they don't believe what I believe. I don't play those games. Okay? Some people do, because that's how they get people to convert, is through intimidation. And that's done through the parents to the kids, as well as people to other people. People have used those tactics on the J world for many years. Threats, intimidation, where I even had to involve the FBI because of it, because I didn't know what this person was capable of. Okay? So that's kind of what we're dealing with as far as some pretty scary people out there. They're so legalistic and so radicalized around their religion or politics or science that they come off as intimidating and want to intimidate people into converting them. And that's scary. It really is. So no matter my beliefs as far as spirituality or your beliefs as far as spirituality, what is the common bond between all division? We are human. But we also need to find our humanity. You must save yourself. I'm harsh, but I'm no more harsh than a religious person who doesn't like someone going outside the lines of their religion. You may be saving people's souls if you are religious, but I'm trying to give you the opportunity to reinforce your temple so your soul has a safe place to reside in. I don't want to ever say I'm saving anybody, but I want to give you the chance to reinforce your body, your temple, to hold the most precious gift, which is you and your soul. Okay, so maybe you, religious person, born again Christian, Jewish, whatever, you're trying to save souls out there, and I get it. But in order to save a soul, when you think about it, you have to reinforce the body to hold that soul, because your body is your temple, and that soul needs a safe place, or they're going to be chaotic out there in the upside down, in the ghost world. You don't want to end up with your soul floating around in the ghost world looking for a body to inhabit so you can then experience life again. Because when your soul is set free out there into the universe, it's with so much chaos. The body is the organization, okay? And then, or your soul gets sucked into an animal, and then you become the spirit of that animal. And then now you got to deal with an owner who doesn't understand, who will beat you if you don't do what you want it to do, if you don't do what he wants you to do or she wants you to do. And so you don't want your soul to be ending up in an animal or floating around or becoming a bug. Or you don't want your soul being in a cat that has to go and run away from things and that. Okay, you want to have the soul in an organized, strong type of temple. So what am I advocating? Reinforce your temple so you're not forced into lesser intelligent beings or floating around the universe haunting people, because that's the only thing you have left. Okay. So another way to put it, save your body, save your soul. Okay, save your body to save your soul. So then we think about The Exorcist. Okay, when I think about The Exorcist, I'm looking at all these movies from the past. And so when you're doing the J world, when you're actually releasing those demons and you're like I was doing this morning, coughing so much, coughing, and blowing my nose and hawking up loogies, it sounds like an exorcist. It sounds like I am producing a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And so what the system is showing you around The Exorcist is people hold so much damage and trauma, causing so much bad behavior. And yes, the sickness is the body trying to release the demons. You cannot afford to keep those demons trapped inside because they influence your behavior, and then you become destructive and legalistic and then suffer and fall apart. So the whole J world is like a huge exorcism. People must release those demons because those demons will destroy them. And you will destroy other people when you hold those many demons inside. They must realize what medicinal herbs and what the medical, surgical, veterinary, holistic system does. They develop out-of-control reproduction, immature juvenile cells that turn into cancer, the aging process, and then suffering, exponential suffering. The last 3 years was a major exorcism for me, from all the damage that I did to myself, as well as what the medical system did, as well as what was in my genetic line. And it was suffering. I was suffering for the last 7 years, the last 3 years, and the last 49 years. I'm not suffering as much now except to watch all of you guys suffer, and it fucking sucks. My suffering isn't over because I live in a world full of people who are suffering, and the animals are suffering. So much slavery is going on. And so in order for the world to have some kind of relative peace without rest and peace, everyone must release their own demons, and the government also releasing the demons without doing anything to you that you haven't done to yourself already. So when they raise the heat, because this climate change is aggressive, and I've watched all these different shows on YouTube about climate change and the heat, a lot of people are going to pass away. This is that kind of heat that creeps up on you. It's a silent killer. Like, I felt the heat last night. It was like around maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. I hear the frequency shift in my ear. And then maybe about half hour later or before that, I was sneezing. And then I blow my nose because that shift caused growth. And so I sneezed out the spirit that was going to take over me, right? That was already in me because I have relative equilibrium. But then when the climate shifts, then you have growth, and then you have to release the demons. Cough, sneeze, blow your nose, and hawk up loogies. So that way anything inside of you doesn't become too numerous. All right? And so, yeah. So the heat's going to kick people's asses. It already is. I remember waking up a couple days ago from a nap, and I was so thirsty. But I didn't drink like four 16-ounce bottles like that chick did. And then she died from hyponatremia. Too much water, not enough salt. But yeah, it's pretty aggressive out there. Okay, so it's fucking hot. Hold on. I'm eating peanut butter jam sandwich. All right. So, if you don't intend to stay alive indefinitely, you have accepted your indentured servitude. When you have children you don't intend to keep alive indefinitely because you couldn't or wouldn't, you have just conscripted your kids into indentured servitude. Parents will either enslave your kids when they're adults, or you will give your kids the freedom when the time comes, because they have 18 years under your rule and then the expectations of the government. But when children learn how to deal with hardship and stress and release and retention the proper way without encountering any more trauma, adulthood will be a breeze. Okay, so when children learn how to deal with hardship, stress, and release and retention, what was missing in my childhood was the food. And it was the release that was missing and the retention. I needed to gain a bunch of weight. I needed the food. I needed to release the demons of all that crap. Okay? And so when children have 18 years to not only learn the ways of the world in a proper setting that will give them that latitude, but they also have to release those demons. They also have to take on the food. They also need to rest and relax and also have some kind of discipline as far as getting up and brushing your teeth and blowing nose. But if a kid feels like they're tired, but then you're like, well, what if I want to play video games all day? Well, see, here's the thing. It's difficult to raise a kid, but they will eventually understand the ways of the world as you, a parent, give them all the exposure to what people are doing. What happens when you don't take care of things? What happens when you don't take care of yourself? What happens when you don't take care of your room and take care of your house and take care of all these things? You'll end up homeless and potentially even dead. And so there's ways that we can show your kids what happens when they don't do stuff. But they also have genetic predispositions. they also have to eat a bunch of food and release demons. And when they have these specific symptoms, not to keep squelching those symptoms and shoving them back in the body again to then cause more trauma, who knows what else. And so, yeah, it's going to take a parent who understands my information, who understands the world today and where the world is going in the future, to give their kids an amazing platform. So when they're an adult, when they're 18 and 19, and they're so mature because their parent took the fucking time, they won't fall into all the alcohol and the drugs and this crazy sex and looking for a boy or a girl. They'll realize the kind of world they live in, and that's dangerous, trying to look for an outlet, an escape. And so, when they learn computers and they learn how to write and express themselves, when they learn how to speak, when they learn a lot of things, oh my God, imagine how amazing they would be. And then you can show them all the different things they could do out there. But they won't really have the capacity to introduce change because they don't know what to change. They're just learning the world that they live in. But when they're in the world long enough to see the problems in society, see the problems in industries, then they have the platform to work from, to introduce change and to make things better, not only for themselves, but for the world around them. But kids right now, going into college and in the military, they're not bringing in change. They're going to be slaves for the system for a while. And you hope that they survive their slavery. You hope they do. Because when you finally become an adult, that's when you get the freedom, if you haven't fucked yourself up too much in your enslavement. The whole J world is setting people free. Because then you'll have the capacity to learn everything and pick and choose how you want to make your money and do what you need to do. Okay, and so, yeah, your first 18 years slavery, the next 20 years, some type of slavery, and you hope you survive the 20 years. You didn't compound too much of the trauma. Okay, so when children learn how to deal with hardship and stress and release and retention the proper way without encountering any more trauma, adulthood will be a breeze, right? You would have given them the proper foundation. Adults who don't really suffer in childhood will have a hell of a time adapting to adulthood. Childhood is a training grounds to learn how to deal with hardship, change, and recognize predatory behaviors in themselves as well as in the world. So yeah, I was formidable for many years. My mother told me so. You're very formidable. Well, fuck yeah, you trained me to be that way. Come on. And I had to release those demons. I released those demons the last 7 years. Okay. It's a lot, but I need to get this out for myself because then doing this helped me write that petition. And that petition is a springboard for my book, because that's basically the thesis of my world and for the future. I've been around again for 50 years. I have enough experience to know what needs to be changed. And I know and see all the suffering out there. I see people just completely just at their wits' end around everything, with absolutely no hope, because no one has offered them something different, except for more herbs, more extracts, more surgeries, more diets, more suffering, and then endless activism, to the point where they destroy themselves. So no matter what happens to your kids, parents, save yourself. Let the system deal with your kids. And you need to save yourself, and then take personal responsibility of what you contribute to. Find a way to ask a doctor to help you. If they don't, and your kids don't survive, then you probably have a case. But that sucks, right? You have to wait for your kid to die before you have a case? Well, no, that's why I'm introducing refeeding clinics. You don't want to ask the system that hasn't been introduced to this something that they are not prepared to give you. And so, really, what do you want, to save your kid or win a case? Well, you can't save other people, but you can ask the system to help save your child. And food is the answer, and release. And teaching the children how to cough, sneeze, and blow their nose. And teaching the adults how to do stuff to release the demons. And I don't know how this is going to work with kids, but doctors and nurses and parents and kids all need to come together and figure out a game plan. And figure out how they're going to allow that kid to fucking live and not be tortured by the demons in their colon. Now, I don't talk about doing detoxes or laxatives or anything like that. Or constant enemas, no. And so, yeah, and milk is a great way to release demons. But kids are allergic to milk, they learn how to blow their nose. You introduce milk slowly. And so when a kid has diarrhea and they're releasing the demons, you don't fucking stop it. But people do. They mischaracterize the release process. Let me tell you, when we were doing the J juice and we were drinking in the beginning, we were doing so much waterfall, so much diarrhea, because there was so much in our system that needed to release. And so finally I cleaned my system out. Then I got away from the J juice. I really didn't need it anymore. And I had to eat the food and gain the pressure. And when the body needed to release, it had the opportunity because it was conditioned. Not only through the J juice in the beginning, but also then me doing what I had to do to help everything come out. Because even your body will want to revert back to what it was, where it was too afraid to release. All right? And that's what's helped me the last month. Because my body had to release certain times. Sometimes they were pretty urgent. And no, I wasn't using J juice. All right? And so you don't want to end up where you have to have a case against the medical system because they didn't help your kid to survive. So remember, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, and the food is not harmful. Symptoms are not harmful, but surgery and antibiotics are. You must understand the English language. You must be more than halfway intelligent to defend your life and your child's life. If you cannot, and you try to save your kid on your own, and you don't have the experience of doing that, you could be held liable. Play the game the right way. Hold the system accountable for what they did to you and your child. The answers are in the medical system. They're not in your Facebook friends. Like I see in these diet suddenly groups, they're asking people, oh, my kid has this type of thing. Recommend me an herb and a supplement or something. And then you see them collecting skulls. They're recommending everybody under the sun, everything. It's crazy to watch. So remember the surgery. It's like cutting somebody when they're awake. Cutting somebody is not okay. That's doing harm to a patient. When you play the game the medical system plays and you turn the language around on them, you will find they have been harming you and your children for years. Not the VACCINESs, because one little puncture is not going to really do too much. If you get an immunological response, you release the demons and eat food. You feed the energy. All right? I'm talking about surgery. I'm talking about antibiotics. I'm talking about injections. Could be like a pinprick, right? But the needles are not deadly. I'm talking about major cutting of people and the constant use of natural or pharmaceutical antibiotics and supplements and the spicy food with the intention to disable the functions of the immune system. So when people are using so much spicy food, cayenne pepper, turmeric and honey and apple cider vinegar and all these things to stop the body's ability to allow the immune system to work the way it's supposed to, then that's why they get the cancers and disease and chronic illness. Okay? I'm talking about the transplants and developing food allergies from all the different remedies using those tinctures that are laced with food proteins. If you understand how to use the English language like the medical system does, you will find they have violated the Hippocratic Oath all over the place. And I'm talking about oncology. That's violating the laws of life, making you feel desperate. That was the only choice. Oncology is attacking life, attacking you. Now, with this information, I'm going to piss people off. I know it. But I'm not doing it to harm you. I'm giving you another fucking choice. Okay? It's not too late for a lot of you. Please just remember, I'm not the enemy and I'm not the monster. Please remember that. Humans were used and they have been damaged by somebody. And they allowed the system to allow you to feel okay to be damaged. Now you have a chance to wake up from that. You have a chance not to be the monster they made you to be. I had to wake up from my own bullshit and come to terms with the monster I was, using remedies, supporting antibiotics, and playing the games of destruction and division, supporting surgeries, and stepping on people to get ahead. It's okay to come to terms with the monster in you and purge that monster out. And then you'll be free from that fucking monkey in your body. Not everybody's going to survive that. Your kids may not survive that. But you have a chance to save yourself. Release the fucking monster within you, and then take a look at the world now. When you see the world from my point of view, you'll know why I've never stopped speaking. You'll know why you've hated me. But I'm not the enemy. I just fucking woke up and saw the emperor had no clothes, and he never did have any clothes. And that's the ultimate suffering, is you see what others don't see, and that's agonizing. Okay? Just think about all your activism and people are not getting it. And you're like agonized, they don't get it. Well, that's how I feel too. And so I found a way to get to everybody. Nobody escapes facing their demons. If there is no mirror, you can't look at yourself. So again, even owning animals, having farms, having so many children you do not intend to keep alive. And eventually they'll be walking that plank. And they'll hear the screams of their own friends and family in the farm, in the house, in the school system. When you hear the screams of torture because of the medical, holistic energy healing world, antibiotics, all the surgeries, oh my God. Then you realize how monster humans have been taught to be. And so yes, those who own animals and own farms, that's a fucking mirror. Imagine being that pig, being that cow. Imagine being that animal, that cat, that dog that is forced into the veterinary system and dropped off to go have shit done to it. And then you're off there shopping while that animal's being butchered by that veterinarian. Can you imagine the fucking fear of these poor animals going to the vet? Oh my fucking God. Can you imagine the fear of that animal of the vet coming to the farm? Can you imagine the fear of that animal when you have to go and slaughter it for food? Oh, believe me, when the vegans and vegetarians were like protesting my information because I was saying you got to eat meat. Well, I still hadn't fully embraced the whole lab created meat because maybe that wasn't introduced back then. I don't know. I understand where they're coming from, but you can't starve yourself because of your politics. I get emotionally where you're coming from, but at the expense of your child, at the expense of you, when you're starving them from the necessary proteins they need to survive in this fucking world. And so the straddling of both worlds is going to be difficult. But when they only produce the lab created meat, okay, I'll eat it. Why not now, Jillian? Put your money where your mouth is. Because my husband and I, it's still offered. I don't watch the process, but we need the meat. Would my husband eat lab created meat? I'm sure if I didn't tell him, he wouldn't care. But I need to survive. And when the system forces me, which is fine, to eat lab created meat, lab cultured meat, I'll eat it. And so I will do everything I can to survive. I'm not going to let my politics destroy me. But I got to build up the substance, build up the infrastructure of my body to deal with all the changes. And then I will have to deal with the change of even how the meat's made. It's not going to be horrific. You still need the fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, so you'll still get that. But it is a change to get used to. But nothing is poison if it's FDA approved. You're the one that has to figure out how to manage everything that you're doing. And so what exactly does a Hippocratic oath say? In the oath, the physician pledges to prescribe only beneficial treatments. Beneficial, that could be taken so many ways. It's very fucking broad and vague. Only beneficial treatments according to his abilities and judgment to refrain from causing harm or hurt and to live an exemplary personal and professional life. And so right there, the surgical system and the antibiotics is causing harm and hurt. Antibiotics develop so many little babies, microbial babies that end up to be cancer someday. And then surgery, you wouldn't cut somebody when they're awake, so why would you cut someone when they're asleep, under the influence, doing drugs? Anesthesia is a drug. That's doing harm to people. When you say no to drugs over here, and then say yes to drugs over here, say no to cutting someone over here, but saying yes to cut someone over here, you can't play both sides, medical system, but they do. And then you ask for it, and then you sign on the dotted line. But they've cornered your ass through wordplay. They played the savior, and you bought it. Oh boy, the oncology and surgical system and the antibiotic prescription drug system has done so much harm, and it's not beneficial because look at all the cancer and diseases. And the holistic system is no better. And people are still in pain because you can't escape the pain when you've been traumatized, when you've traumatized your body. Remember, your immune system will always try to push out the foreign objects and the damage, and then you slam the system with antibiotics and painkillers, thus forcing the body to hold on to damage inside until you get breakthrough infection and not survive the energy conversion. And so I've had so much breakthrough infection the last 4 years from the energy changes. How did I save myself? I ate all food, released all demons, and outlined in my book, and I slept, and I used no remedies, because it is Custer's last stand right now. And right now, people are getting slaughtered by the medical, holistic, energy healing world. And so I stand alone. I don't need any validation. When you can be secure on your own most of the time, and you're not feeding people sugar-coated bullshit, and you're not worried about pleasing people or getting validation, not only are you secure, but you're fucking free. When you can lose friends without insulting people personally, and you're not attacking their sexual orientation and or ethnicity, now you learn how to strategically challenge people's perceptions of life and death, and give them the truth their friends and family will never, ever give them, because they're too afraid to lose you. Oh my God, there's so much. Oh yeah. So it's okay to feel remorseful because you were biting somebody else. Okay. So when I was a kid, and my sister and I were pitted against each other, and I won according to what my parents were purposely doing, or my mother was purposely doing. And I know it probably fucked up my sister, but we were pitted against each other. And so when you're made to be a demon as a child because you're under human experimentation, behavioral experimentation, and someone is compromised from that or victimized from that, well, you can only apologize and say, I'm so sorry. And that person will also bite somebody else because of what they went through. And they'll blame. They'll blame myself and my mother. And so it's okay to feel remorseful because you were bitten biting somebody else. So when you were bitten by somebody and you bit somebody else, then you really feel remorseful for being bitten, or you forgive the person that bit you, and then you feel remorseful for biting somebody else. The person you bit at the time also bit other people after that. Okay? And the cycle goes on. When you finally realize that you have bit other people because someone bit you, but it wasn't even the person that bit you's fault, then you can forgive yourself for biting other people because, yes, you did wrong. Then you forgive the other person who bit you because, yes, they did wrong. Then you can forgive the person that bit them because they did wrong. And I'm saying it goes back and back and back. All right. So even though they didn't know it was wrong, you don't have to have a relationship with people to forgive them, because you can forgive yourself. Okay. All right. Let me tell you, even predators were a victim at one point. Even a victim was a predator at one point. Learn to break the cycle, or you will always be a victim. All right. Or always have predatory behaviors. So you can tell who the predators are in our society. They're always going to be the victim, and then they'll be the predator again. And those are my trolls. They were victims at one point, not of me because I didn't do shit to them, but they were victims at one point, and someone introduced something to them that they didn't like, and then they associate those people to me, and then they go after me as if I was the one that did something to them. That's traumatized victims out there. The trolls have been traumatized extensively. That's what you're dealing with. People who have been traumatized, who have been bitten, who will bite other people until somebody breaks the cycle, until the heat turns up and they can't handle the climate change, or until they reverse their situation and feed their issues and release the demons, have some kind of exorcism. But then look at your activist world, and you see all those perceived victims becoming predatory. Then they become the zombies trying to bite people. With what's going on, the system wants somebody to pass away. It doesn't have to be you. Remember, I'm not very popular. The system made me to make sure most people don't get this. And so you do have a chance to break your predatory behavior and your victimhood. And we are in the game. We are in Van Helsing, The Walking Dead, Vampire Diaries, and The Hunger Games. All right? And so that's why I developed that change.org platform. And so there's that with Michael J. Fox. All right, so with machines. I'm not going to read all that. What happened to Lahaina, Freddy Krueger, people born from psychotic people. And so there's always going to be some kind of aggressive frequencies. And people don't like me pointing out what they do to themselves and their kids and what they do to their animals. And so they come back on me. But hey, I was able to handle all the heat from everybody questioning my thought process. And so Then I put my money where my mouth was and did that petition. So you know where I'm coming from. So you don't try to change things on your own by yourself with your kid when you have no idea how to do that if it's too much for you. And so now it's time for somebody to petition the medical system to give people the option to get their life back. Like, people need to get their life back. Oncology isn't the only fucking option. Diets are not the only option. Surgeries are definitely not the only option. And so people have to realize that food is the answer. And the answer to life, immortal life, is so fucking easy. But the system made it complicated because they're doing human experimentation. And you sign up for it. But you can't do shit on your own. And so then you have to have the system evolve. And you have to help it evolve. And so that's where I come in. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say. But just realize the world that you're in, very satanic. I'm not saying people are satanic, but the world that you're in is very satanic. And people worship death. And they worship destruction. And they worship suffering. They don't like it, but they advocate it. And they won't do anything to change it. Well, I'm giving you a chance to change shit. At least develop awareness in yourself. I put everything in such a neat, succinct order. Because everyone is dying from starvation. And food is the answer. And release. And when someone is so obese because there's so much pressure and not enough release, when someone's so skinny, they have demons inside eating all their food and they're not releasing. And they're afraid of food. The answer is food and release. It's up to the fucking medical system to teach how to do this shit. They have to be held accountable for not only all the trauma, but all the violations against the life of the body. But if you're in the holistic system, peddling pills and powder supplements and detoxes and herbs and extracts, you don't have a fucking leg to stand on. For you to go and bring this back to the goddamn medical system and hold them accountable, now you got to face your own monster inside. So if you're selling people pills and powders and herbs and supplements and detoxes, and you're all into the naturopathic, homeopathic shit, you're part of the problem. You are the problem. You're giving people right back to the medical system, right back into the fucking morgue. So if you seriously want to hold those fuckers accountable in the medical system, then you got to face the monster inside you. Seriously, you got to face the monster within. And if you can't fucking do that, you're speaking out both sides of your mouth, and you're not really part of the J world, but you like being attracted to something that's a little bit different. But you have no intention of doing anything except for what you've been doing. And you're part of the slavery system. But you ain't for change. And you're definitely not saving anybody. And you're not helping anybody either. Bye.